So I'm
Oh yeah.
fascinated by this idea. You know, you want to be an author from at least age 12 because you wrote it down, but probably before then.
Yes.
And then when you have your daughter at age 22, that's when you get serious about publication. So what is it about age 22 with a daughter that changes the conversation for you?
Yeah, so actually this is kind of like a poignant little story that I'm about to share. So all through my like publishing career, I've been telling the same story that like I've been trying to like finish a novel and I would only get like 3 chapters in over and over, like for years and years. And then finally I have my daughter at 22 and it finally, makes me think, well, if I can push out a kid, I could push out a novel. Like I could do this. If I can give birth, I could do anything. A book can't be that hard. And I finally finished my first novel. Well, in the last couple of years, I went back and looked at those dates. And actually, I finished my first novel before I even got pregnant. So I had mixed up these dates in my head for years and years. So I finished my first book about a year before I had my daughter. And which is kind of like, oh, cool. I did it just for my own reasons and not because I was like, oh, I'm a mother now, like time to get serious about all of these things that I've always wanted to do. So it was February of 2009 and the Amazon Breakthrough Novel Award contest was ongoing. Do you remember this contest that
Vaguely
was
remind the Steve audience.
Yes. So basically it was around the time that self-publishing was really getting up and going and with Amazon entering as like a serious player there. But this was for a publishing contract with Penguin. So you would submit your novel to the Amazon Breakthrough Novel Award contest. It would go through several rounds, and if you won, you would get this publishing contract with Penguin. And in the meantime, Amazon was, searching through all of the submissions to find people to like jointly self-publish through Amazon. But I just saw, I didn't know how publishing worked. I just saw like, oh, enter this contest, potentially get published by Penguin. That's a publisher that I know of. So I heard the deadline was like 3 weeks away. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a novel and enter it. So that's what I did. I just like butt in chair, hands on keyboard, just like threw up this novel that was not very good and submitted it. And it made it through the first round. And then the second round, the celebrity special author judges were Sue Grafton and Sue Monk Kidd. And they read through all the submissions and gave little like 1 paragraph feedback to all of us who did not make it to the next round. So Sue Monk Kidd gave me this paragraph of very lovely feedback. She complimented my author voice and my descriptions and my language. And Sue Grafton devastated me with her paragraph, her criticism. She like tore me apart. And it was, I mean, again, so warranted because it was not a great book. But then, I was like, well, I did it. I finished a novel. I could do it again. And I did have my daughter. And then basically like in those quiet, long stretches of like nursing my daughter and staring at an infant and just being like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we have a lot of time to fill up. I immediately started working on another book and just here I am. I still do that. Still just constantly working on the next book.
Good for you. I remember I had a baby on my chest and a video game controller just
Oh,
passed.
there was plenty of that too. There was plenty of that. Yeah.
No, I tease. I also had moments where I had him in a pouch so I could type and get
Yeah,
another book done.
exactly. Yeah. And I should say too, like I was a single mom. I was terrified. I had no idea. Like I just was like, I guess this is my life now to do everything with a kid. So I better figure out how to do all this with a kid. So.
And you did.
And I did. Here I am. Yeah.
And so, okay. And then I had read that you had written Hour of Bees in 10 days. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So what do
Yeah.
those 10 days look like?
Getting up at about 6:30 because my oldest was up with the sun, and um, handwriting it in a notebook because that's like my preferred first draft method still is to handwrite it. So I would handwrite while she in like little 5 and 10 minute bursts throughout the day while she was playing, while she was 3 at the time. It was June, so we went to the park and I would sit under this tree, and sounds very idyllic when I explain it like that, but I just, yeah, it was basically notebook in hand for 10 days straight. And she went to bed pretty early. She went to bed at like 7, and so I would type up what I had for the day and kind of expand it, or yeah, just revisit it so that I was fresh for the next day. It was kind of like it wasn't quite a fugue state, but it was a very special insulated bubble of time in which I don't know, the story just spilled out.
Would love to have a 10-day fugue state where I came to, like, where am I? Oh my God, a book. How wonderful.
I have had fugue states like that since, but they have never been as fruitful as that ever. And that, I mean, the story, basically all of my revisions for Hour of the Bees were pretty minor. Like the main story didn't really change. And so it really was like a lightning bolt. That's so frustrating to say, and it's frustrating to hear, but I just know that I've never gotten that since, ever. Every book after that has been like pulling teeth. So the universe has balanced itself out.
Well, there's some of that positivity we promised. I mean, not the full teeth part, but you too, esteemed audience, if it could happen to Lindsay, perhaps one day you can be hit by that bolt of lightning and go into a fugue state for 10 days
That's
and
right.
compose an amazing novel that's going to come out and be a huge hit and lead to
Yep.
this sort of a successful publishing career.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say Hour of the Bees was started on the heels of a very devastating realization that the book I was working on before that, which turned out to later would become Race to the Bottom of the Sea, that was the book I was working on for years before I started Hour of the Bees, and I trunked it. I could not get it right. It was the book of my heart. It was everything that like 10-year-old Lindsay would want in a book. It was so special, and I just was not a good enough writer, and it was so frustrating. And literally the night before I started Hour of the Bees, I like gathered up all my papers, put all my files on my laptop away for Race to the Bottom of the Sea, and put it all away because I was like, I need a break from this. I need to start something new, because a writer, whether you succeed at a book or you fail at a book, you come to the end of a book and you need to start something new. So my goal with Hour of the Bees was just to get the taste of Race to the Bottom of the Sea out of my mouth, just to do something else, to succeed at starting something new. So it was fueled by spite, maybe, and by devastation, and by the desire to write something totally different, tonally, plot wise, setting wise, just to get away from this big, sad failure.
What was it, do you know, that was holding you back then and that eventually allowed you to finish the Race to the Bottom of the Sea?
When I started Race to the Bottom of the Sea, I actually started that novel with a list. I wrote a list of everything that would be exciting for 10-year-old Lindsay to read in a book. And it was a very long list. And it included like sharks, candy, librarians, pirates, like all of these things that are in the book. But it was a much longer list. And the initial drafts of Race to the Bottom of the Sea were really more like 7 books in one. I'm not even kidding. They were very episodic, very like 7 plots. Like each chapter felt like, looking back now, I can look and see like, oh, that whole chapter is basically like the opening third of another novel. I just thought the answer was to just cram everything in. And so really those few years were me trying to smooth out all of these giant complex plots that I had smushed together, which just, I needed some space and time away to prune and find like the one true plot, which I was able to do years later when my editor said, okay, I bought 2 books from you. It's Hour of the Bees and what's the other one? And I said, could it be Raised to the Bottom of the Sea? Will you help me please get this book right? And I just like plucked and pruned and was like, why are all of these stories in here? There's like so many, and like the amount of characters that I cut from that book, easily like 15 characters, like so many characters. So I just basically tried to write like all of a series of unfortunate events in one novel. And then it was like, after writing Bees, after getting my editor, after leveling up as a writer, I was able to look at it and be like, oh, Lindsay, no. You get one plot, just pick one. And so I picked the one.
So, so the problem then was not something you could have fixed prior to the Hour of the Bees, because it involved you had to step away and then come back with a fresh perspective. There wasn't anything you could have done at that moment until later. Is that right?
No, and believe me, I was trying. I mean, that was like, I woke up, I thought about Race to the Bottom of the Sea. I worked on it all day. I just was too close to it. And I just needed more experience as a writer and as a reader too. I mean, I just needed to read more current middle grade books. And at that time, you know, the books that were being published, the books that were being acquired, and then have that perspective. Which
we blew past that for people who aren't used to dealing with publishing. Just to clarify, an editor bought 2 books for you, and then she doesn't know what the second book is.
Yes, that's how it worked for me. So sometimes an author will sell 1 book at a time, and there's lots of reasons for doing that. Some authors want to have a book completely finished before they sell it, which is smart in a lot of ways. Sometimes editors just want 1 book at a time. Maybe it's a publishing, their own publishing house, kind of their standard, or maybe they're not quite sure about taking on this author long term, and so they want to just offer, you know, a 1 book contract. There's lots of reasons, but very often you get these beautiful little 2 book deals, and it will often be for the 1 book that's finished, or at least, you know, hopefully usually there's like a partial or a proposal of some sort, but like the majority of the time it's finished and it's already gone through some sort of revision with the agent, and then they'll often buy a second unnamed project. It's a sort of second chance for the author to like, it's a 2-in-1. It's great, and it's the second chance for the publishing company to kind of put another book out by you and see what you can do. A lot of authors find it liberating to have that second book already under contract. And I feel like a lot of authors use that as an opportunity to do something really different and unexpected for a follow-up book, because like maybe switch genres, or because it's already under contract, and it's so it's fun to kind of take it as a wild card, I guess. That's what my editor and I ultimately decided to do with Race. It's so different from Hour of the Bees, and which I was very concerned about. I was like, oh no, this is not probably the ideal follow-up for Hour of the Bees, especially as Bees got some success right out of the gate. I was very concerned, like maybe I should be writing something that's more that's closer in tone or, you know, theme to Bees. And my editor said, oh, no, let's put out something totally different so that they don't pigeonhole you. Let's just go for it, which was very wise of her, because nobody knows what to expect from me now, including myself. So it's great.
It sounds wonderfully freeing.
Yeah.